Hello. Here we are. Welcome to the Ask Steve Live show. Good to be here. Um, don't have really many people in the stream at the moment, but that's okay. Maybe some people will join in shortly. Maybe like 2 weeks ago, I started streaming some video game footage, test it out. And some of my subscribers, I had a choice. I could start streaming just right to Twitch, or I could start streaming to YouTube. I decided, well, I have like 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. Maybe some of them will like this. So I started streaming, and I got a few people to watch and a few people to go over to my Twitch channel, which is awesome. But I lost a couple of subscribers. I think I lost like 150 subscribers or something. And that hurt me. I was like, oh, crap. Let me do something to give back. Something that was a stream, like the video gaming. And I decided, well, I could do an Ask Steve Live. And so my last video that was put up said that I'm going to have an Ask Steve Live. And here I am. I'm in my living room. The funny thing is that when I scheduled this Ask Steve stream, I didn't realize, well, I just scheduled it for a night that was convenient for me in my schedule. And I didn't realize that tonight would be Game 7 of the World Series. And, what are the chances that there was going to be a Game 7? And, of course, there is. So you might see some lighting changing behind me because I have my TV on in front of me, too, just in case somebody hits a grand slam or something. So I'm going to try and stall for a bit more, see if any more people want to come into the live stream so they can ask me questions in the chat. I did have one question on the other video that I can answer. There was also a comment on that video that said, can't wait, so many questions. I think his name was Jamal. Where's Jamal? I don't know. I do have a question from somebody named Acutus, or Acutus, and he's got a picture of Picard as his profile picture. So maybe it's Locutus, like from Star Trek. But I got a question from him, and then a bunch of people saying that I've helped them, which is great. That's awesome. Yeah, Jamal Chodo, can't wait. Have so many questions. Where are you, man? Just want to make sure that this is all working. I think this is all working. If there's anybody in the chat, or if there's anybody watching right now, say something in the chat just so I know it's working. Yeah, I want more people to come in, but I'm not that popular. 60,000 subscribers is nice, but it's not that crazy. And I didn't really promote this that much or whatever. And if no one comes, then I don't know really what to do. I have like maybe a couple of questions that I get asked a lot that I could answer, but those are also in my other Ask Steve, so you can check those out too. I am going to just go in the other room and check my other computer to just make sure the stream is working. Oh, here we go. Hey, Hal Ingram. Okay, so it is working. That's good. Cool. So, yeah, I guess, feel free to ask anything in there. We had somebody named Keenster who was in the stream, and now he's not anymore, or she. And so feel free to ask any questions, and I think I would like a few more people to show up. I mean, that'd be nice. I can also search my email for questions that I get. I get like YouTube messages a lot. So let me see what I got here. Hal, any questions for photography, cinematography, anything like that? I'm just trying to go through my email here to see if, you know, I could have done this before I started streaming, but my schedule was crazy today. You know, I only had about 45 minutes to set this all up, and it's my first time doing it. So I'm really happy that I managed to start the stream exactly at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to give it a minute more or two, and then I'll get right into it. Meanwhile, I am trying to find something that I could say. I'm rooting for the Cubs. You know, I mean, I'm from New York, so it's already 1-0. When the hell did that happen? Oh my God. Well, 1-0 Cubs. Hey, if anything, this is going to be audio is too low. Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can fix that. Audio is too low. Cool. Check. Check. All right. Let's see. How do I up the audio? Check. Check. Oh, it's because it's this thing. That's not cool. Well, now that I have my headphones back on, check. Can you hear me? Is it better now? That's better? Oh wow, I didn't realize. I thought the audio was going off of my laptop, not my my thing. Oh sweet. Thanks, Mesh. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna wait for maybe one more person to come in, but Mesh, feel free to ask a question. Hal, if you have any, you can as well. I don't know where Steve T went or Canester. They're gone. But I'm also trying to find some questions that I might have been asked over, you know, on my in my email. You know, well, when I get messaged on YouTube, I get an email about it. But I mean, you could probably see. I mean, I don't know. I have like a lot of unread emails. Look at all this and so much spam on there. Let's see. This guy says he has a question. Let me check it out. Any questions, Mesh? In terms of photography, videography? Oh my God. Shut up. Shut up. There we go. All right. I've got a question. So we're 8 minutes in, and we got our first question here. So this question is a comment on my DSLR basic settings tutorial. One of my most popular videos. It has 500,000 views. That's pretty dope. Never thought it would be that many views. That's crazy. Has been up for a while. So this is from a guy named David Frepun. And David says, well, he compliments the tutorial. That's cool. And he says, I have a question. I lost where the hell it is. You may have covered it, but I am shooting a lot of football stadium Friday night lights pics. And do you have any suggestions on the best settings? I know it will vary on the field, but as a guide, what do you suggest I start with? I have been just setting my camera and getting pretty lucky so far. I have a few issues. Of course, I am in the stands versus on the field. I have a 70-200 2.8 lens. Yeah, obviously, it would be great if you could get down on the field. I mean, I don't know, maybe you're just like a father of somebody, or, you know, if you're the father of somebody who's playing, like it's your son or whatever, then you should say like, hey, I got this dope lens, let me go down to the field and take some great shots. If you're just a spectator, you know, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, doing a lot of football stadium, it depends. If it's a professional games you've been going to, then obviously you can only go from the stands. But if it's any kind of local event, I definitely would try to say like, hey, I got this camera, I can, you know, do you want some pictures for your social media, whatever. See if you can work your way down there. It doesn't hurt to ask. But if not, I mean, either way, you know, the lighting is going to be you can't do anything about the lighting, so the lighting should be pretty okay with the stadium lighting and stuff. But obviously, yeah, a long lens would be good, especially if you're trying to get, like, you know, closer up action shots. I would say the biggest thing would be, yeah, the shutter speed. I'd say for sports, especially for football, you're probably going to want a fast shutter, you know, to get everything really clear and sharp and stopped. So, you know, the 70 to 200 2.8 is great, because at a 2.8, not only are you going to get great depth of field, but you know, you don't have to put your ISO up too high to get your shutter up. So I would say it depends. Like if you're looking to get like a shot of the football going in midair, or even just like somebody running really fast, I think probably somewhere around a 500 shutter. I mean, 1,000 shutter would be great, you know. So if it's nighttime, that might be tough, even with the stadium lighting. But if it's daytime, 1,000, you know, 1,000th of a second is, I'd say, probably won't need to go any faster than that. That will get rid of any blur, you know. So I would say, you know, 2.8 is good. Get your ISO up to where it needs to be to get 1,000 shutter. Maybe 500 shutter. Maybe 250 shutter, but like even somebody running full speed at 250 shutter, 1/250th of a second, even that, like I've done like dance and stuff and tried to stop someone in a jump in like a jeté, like a grand jeté, and even 250, even 1/250th of a second is kind of slow. Their legs, their toes are still a little blurry. Yeah, I guess the only thing that gets really tough with a situation like that is your focus, because I mean, it depends. If you're on the sides and they're running perpendicular to you, it's a little bit easier to get your focus, because they're not going to go further or away from you. They're just going to kind of stay on the same plane. But if you're off to the side and they're running at you, you know, if you're off to the side and they're running at you, focus could be an issue. I would even say try doing some manual focus, you know, especially at 2.8. Put it on a burst mode, you know, like something that can shoot like 5 or 6, like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 burst mode, like, and you could do autofocus, or you could even try to pull the focus as the person's running at you. So like, you might, basically that's all it is. You are looking to get lucky. A cool tip that I learned one time was in like a really low light situation where you don't have any lights and you have to go at like f1.2, f1.4, where your focus is really horrible. And it's like, what you could do is, even if someone's staying still, you can keep your camera still, and you can, you know, try to find your focus, but it's so dark in the room that you can't even tell if you're in focus. I would say find your best focus, and then go out of focus. Hold the shutter button down, go let go. So basically you're holding the shutter button down and taking all these photos and slowly pulling the focus as you're doing it. Then when you look at the photo, you're going to see way out, getting there. One is sharp, and then out, and then out, and then out. And you use the sharp one, you know, post the sharp one. So you can use that technique doing football as well. But for the most part, you're probably going to be perpendicular, and they're not going to be going in and out of focus too much. But you know, you've been thinking, hey, I've been getting a lot of the same shots, a lot of profile stuff. I kind of want to get more on an angle. You go to the side, and if somebody's running, you know, you could try that. Or if your camera has really dope autofocus, then, you know, work with that too. I could probably talk more on that situation, but let's move on. Mesh, I came across your channel when I was just starting videography, and you did an amazing job. Thanks, Mesh. On that video setting video. Yeah. That's like my main thing. I just ordered a DJI Mavic. It will be my first drone. Any tips on starting filming with drones? And Steve T says hello. Hello, Steve T. Yes, I have a drone. My company, Rethink Films, has a drone. we have the DJI Inspire 1, and we have 2 controllers. I pilot the drone, and Cody, my business partner, controls the camera. So I actually have my eyes on the drone so I don't fly into stuff, and Cody's looking at the iPad connected to the controller and controlling the camera. We've been with 2 operators. We've been able to do some really cool stuff that would be very difficult to do with 1 camera. We did this one thing. We were shooting up in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and we were outside of a barn, and it had a huge door that was like open to the outside. And we were outside the barn, and we came straight down and then flew into the barn. And this barn was probably like this door was probably like 20 feet by 20 feet, but still, it felt tight. I get very scared piloting that thing into narrow situations. And to be able to do that kind of a move, like I don't want to take my eyes off the thing so that I know how far I am from the edges of the door or the narrow space that we're in. And so to be able to do like a dual monitor thing is really good. But I'm assuming that you're not going to have dual capabilities with your drone mesh. So I would say tips on flying the drone. It definitely takes practice. It's going to take practice basically because you got to do. I don't know what kind of drone the Mavic is. I don't know if you can control the camera or if it's just wherever the drone goes, that's where the camera goes. But ours, you can control the camera. If you're doing single operator, basically the only thing you can control of the camera is the tilt, down or up. Now I gotta see it if I screwed up my shot. Yeah. So you can control this with the single operator, but you can't control left and right. What controls left and right is just you turning the drone. The actual drone itself moves, not just the camera. So for that, it gets to be like really tricky because you're going up and down, or you're going turn, or you're going straight and back. And then it's like, so if you want to do a shot where you're going like, this way, and then the camera's tilting down, so like the drone might be going straight like this, but then the camera's going down to so like the drone's going this way, and you going, and the camera just goes straight down, like that. That shit's tough because you're trying to look at the drone and then you're also trying to see what the camera's doing. So it just takes practice. I would say, definitely what makes me nervous about the drone are when there's trees, when there's power lines. If you're going to fly the drone, fly it well above that kind of stuff, especially if it's single operator. You also should register your drone. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You go onto the FAA website, although I don't know if you're in America. If you're in America, yeah, you have to register the drone. Otherwise, you could get fined and stuff and that kind of stuff. It only costs $5. And also, when you do drones, you're not supposed to fly your drone within 5 miles of an airport without letting the airport know. It's not illegal, I think. But once again, you could get fined. So if you're doing any drone shooting, that's not for fun, something that you're trying to get some work, or you're being paid to do this, or you're trying to get shots for something, and you're within 5 miles of an airport, then you're supposed to like call the airport and like talk to the control tower, and you're supposed to like let them know like with a model and what time you're going to be flying it. And just let them know. I don't know what the repercussions are, but that's like supposedly the protocol. Any other tips for drones? Oh, you're Canadian. Okay, so there might be similar rules for you, but I would definitely check it out. There's a whole mess of stuff to do with drones. And just be safe. We don't really ever pilot the drone around people. One time we flew the drone at a wedding above, it was an outside cocktail party, so there was like maybe 150 guests outside, and we did fly the drone above them, only because the groom specifically requested that he wanted that shot, because he was a nerd and he liked drones and he wanted a bird's eye shot of the outside cocktail hour. But even then, we stayed a good, I want to say 30 feet up And 30 feet up doesn't sound like a lot, but they're very small still. It kind of looks like ants, you know. So so we don't pilot the drone at weddings if there's people. We only do it right at the beginning of the day to get like environmental shots and just the landscape. And some places won't even allow you to fly the drone. You know, some venues say like, "Hey, do you have a drone?" Yeah, okay, because we don't allow drones. Okay, you know, that's fine with me. We also charge, you know, extra money, especially for a wedding. It's a little bit extra for drone footage. It doesn't come with the package. That's, you know, we have to pay for the drone. So if you're going to have the drone, it has to be a little bit more because that goes towards the skill and the time and the extra work it takes to do drone stuff. Igor, hello. I'll get to you in a second, Igor. I do have a question from Steve T. He says, I have a 5D Mark III that does not power on sometimes. I sent it to CPS twice and they changed the board each time. No change. Could this be due to shooting video on a DSLR? Steve, what kind of batteries do you have? Do you have Canon batteries or do you have third-party batteries? Because if you're trying to save some money and buying some third-party batteries, that might be a problem right there, because that's happened to me. Back when I used to work for a company who had their own, you have Canon batteries. I maybe try another battery, try getting another battery, but the only time that shit like that had happened with me is when the battery was not a Canon battery. There also might be a problem between the lid of the camera, the battery. You know, when you open up the battery compartment, there's the little lid that comes up. Something might be loose there. You know, I would definitely check that area, because you can actually remove that cap that comes off of the battery compartment. You can remove it. Let me get my camera. Hang on one second. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. Stand by. So this battery compartment here, now this is a 5D Mark II, it's not a 5D Mark III, but it's pretty similar. This compartment here, you should check to see that, you know, everything's working right in here, that this spring and the battery's clicking in nice. And this piece right here, actually you can remove. I haven't done it in a while. How does it work? I think it's, boom, see that? You can take it off. The reason why you can take it off is because they sell batteries, grips that you can put into the bottom that have a little thing that slides in here. So what do you do with this? You need to be able to take it off. Shit, now I need to be able to put it back in here. I mean, I could do this later, but there we go. Oh, see? Did it. So I would check that area too. Some other reasons. If you had the board changed, then I mean, I would suppose it's pretty rare to get two faulty boards, but you could try it again. I can't think of any other thing. You're welcome, Mesh. Any other questions or re-questions after that drone stuff? Anything else I could do? Steve T, do you ever, or Igor, I'll get to you 1 second, Igor. Steve T, your second question. Do you ever use camcorders? I'm thinking of downgrading. Ooh, downgrading to a camcorder. Yes, well, here's the thing. I'll go get my camcorder now. Hang on. Damn, should have gotten it before. Now, I don't know if you'd consider this a downgrade. To me, this is a very big of an upgrade, but I don't know if you'd consider this a camcorder. I think this is a camcorder because that's what it is. This is a Canon C100. It's got flip-out monitor. It's got 2 SD card slots here, you know, and there's no limit on record time. 5D Mark III can record for 30 minutes and then it stops. This can go indefinitely. And not only can it go indefinitely, it could also span to the next card, which is great. So theoretically, you could record for, you know, if you have two 64 gigabyte cards in here, that's probably like what? 600 minutes or something or more. So you're good. You could plug it in to the DC power right here. So this is a camcorder, but the C100 takes your DSLR lenses. So you put in your DSLR lens. Pros and cons. Pro, you're using really good glass. You can be using really good glass. You can rent good glass. This is a 24-105 f4IS, and it's like a what? It's like a $1,200 lens. So that's awesome. You could rent a 70-200. You could rent Canon cinema lenses that are like $5,000. You know what I mean? You could put very, very expensive, beautiful lenses on here. That's a pro. Con is that most camcorders have a servo lens built in. So you can do really smooth zooms. You just go, there's like a forward and a backwards, and it's like a very mechanical, smooth zoom. Whereas these, you have to zoom, you know, manually, and it can be a little, you know, it can be tough. Some lenses zooms are a little bit stickier than others. It's not the smoothest thing in the world. But you could also rent a servo zoom. Canon servo zooms are like $30,000 for just the lens. It's like, you know, with the servo. But you can rent them, you know, so that's pretty dope. So, Steve T, does that help you out, Steve T, in terms of camcorders? Vera. Oh my God, Vera, how do you pronounce your last name? Jesus. If I may ask, what's this channel about? My channel, DiCasaFilm, is a channel for people looking to learn photography, to learn videography, cinematography, making images with lenses, making moving images with lenses and cameras. I started this channel a long time ago, 2007, almost 10 years, because I had a little problem with a camcorder, and I figured out how to fix it. So I just made a quick YouTube thing about like, hey, if you have this camcorder and you're trying to do this thing, here's how you do it. And that got a lot of positive reviews. Man, this is 2007, so it was before YouTube was even monetized, before YouTube was bought by Google, I think. So people would just start asking me questions. Well, what about this? And then it was about editing. What about this? And then I realized that a lot of my videos that I were making were very specific. It was specific to Final Cut, or specific to this camera. And I realized that, like, you know, I think I should generalize everything. Let me make a basic just photography lesson. Because people have been telling me, hey, you have explained this really well. You've explained this really well. And I go, okay, well, maybe I can take that skill that people are telling me I have and put it towards more general things, more sort of evergreen things, more, because, you know, you make a video about a camera, that camera is going to be obsolete in 2 or 3 years. You make a video about a particular editing program, that editing program is going to be obsolete in a couple years. But if you make a video about photography, about what f-stop is, about what shutter speed is, about what ISO is, good filmmaking techniques, just experiences stories I can tell you, things I've learned from making stuff, that can last for years. That'll last until people aren't using cameras anymore. That'll last until people aren't making films anymore. That'll last until people get rid of film and just do all VR storytelling, you know? So that has a little bit more legs to it. So that's why I started this channel, and that's why I do these Ask Things. I went to film school from 2003 to 2007, School of Visual Arts in New York City, and I've been working in film since 2007, you know, as my career. And now, I think it's been 2 years now, I have my own production company called Rethink Films. The link is in the description of the live stream. You can check out our channel and my work, along with my business partner, Cody. And that's what we do. And this channel is this channel is a way for me to share that knowledge, to help people out, because I like doing that. I find that I'm like an altruistic kind of guy. And I like to teach. I like the sound of my own voice. I like to talk. I like to explain shit. Makes me feel smart. But it's also a way to promote my company. It's also a way for people to come to this channel and see me and go, wow, this guy's cool. Oh, well, let me check out his work. Wow, his work's really good. You know, my company needs a video for this thing. Maybe I should talk to Steve. Maybe I should email him. That's what it's all about, you know? And I'm just a human trying to make a living. Thank you, Vera. That's my whole big thing. You are cool. Thanks, Mesh. You are cool. Igor, I have been skirting your question, Igor. So let me read Igor's question. Hello, Steve. Any tips on buying a first lens? Something versatile for beginners that want to try as much as possible. Love your work. Thank you for loving my work. That's awesome. A first lens. Well, I'll tell you what now I'm assuming you have a DSLR, Igor, because what else would you be needing a lens for? So my first lens was a 28 to 135, 3.5 to 5.6. So it was a lens, and it was an IS. So it really depends on what you're doing. For me, since I knew I was going to be doing a lot of video, an IS was very important, an image stabilizer, because when you hold the camera, you're going to see this. You're going to see that. But when you have an image stabilizer in your lens, then it's going to correct that. You might see a little bit of like a swimming motion, but for the most part, that is better than this. So for me, I wanted an IS because I knew I was going to do video. If you're not doing video, you might not need an IS. You might not need an image stabilizer. Now, it was a pretty wide 28 millimeters to pretty tight 135. So it was pretty wide, not super wide, and it was pretty tight, but not super tight. So it was an image stabilizer, pretty wide, pretty tight. The problem with that lens is that it was a 3.5 to 5.6. Now what that means is at the widest, at 28 millimeters, your f-stop, your widest f-stop is f3.5. When you zoom in, it goes up 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.6. So when you're at your tightest, 135, your maximum aperture is at f5.6. So that was the biggest downfall of that lens. The biggest downfall of that lens was it wasn't good in low light. And for the videographer, that really sucks because I have to crank up the ISO. It was on my 5D Mark II. 5D Mark III has great ISO, but on the 5D Mark II, 2500 ISO is about as high as you want to go. And in a low light setting at 5.6, you need to get to like 5000 or 6400, so it's super grainy. So that was tough for me, but the lens was good. It was probably around $500. I think it's still around $500, but for most situations except for low light, the 28 to 135 was great. But eventually, a friend of mine was selling a bunch of his Canon gear, or know what it was? No, that was a different lens. Eventually, I sold that lens. I turned it into B&H for store credit, and I got the 24 to 105, this lens. This lens, so I still have it. So I got the 24 to 105. So 24, a little bit wider, 105, not as tight. But all the way through is f4. So it's a whole stop brighter than the other one, 5.6. The next f-stop down is f4. At the widest, it's f4, not 3.5, so you get like a third of a stop darker at the widest. But at the maximum, it's a whole stop brighter than that one. And plus, it's Canon's best lens. The red here indicates that this is a L lens. This white is just gaff tape that I have on here for marking. I should actually take it off. But yeah, so the lens is really nice. And it's sharp. It doesn't have a lot of problems with it. It's pretty much sharp all through. But that 28 to 135 was a really good lens. It was really sharp at like an f8. It was like a super sharp lens. But yeah, so for me, versatile means pretty wide, pretty tight. It also, for me, versatile, I'd like the IS because it means I could do handheld. I don't need to be on a tripod. But it came at a cost, which was low light. If you know to yourself, like, I mostly do low light, so maybe, you know what, maybe maybe a prime is better. It really depends on what you think you're going to be doing with it. Canon 700D. Could you please go back to my question? Beginner lens. So I hope that's good. I bought the 28 to 135 3.5 to 5.6 Canon lens with an IS. That was my first lens. I thought it was really good. And until it became a thing. Oops. Oh, crap. I lost you guys. Hang on. Hey, Rob. So, I was doing the 28 to 135 for a while before I was like, this 5.6 is really killing me. Now, I know I only bought one stop for the f4, but it was also at a time where I bought that lens plus a prime. So I got a 51.4. And the 51.4, so basically I would use the 28 to 135, or actually, no, I'm sorry. I had the 28 to 135, but I also bought the 51.4. So for low light situations, I just put on my 51.4. I didn't have a zoom anymore. That's all I had, but at least I had 1.4, so I could deal with it. Vera, hope you big success in this channel and your company. Thank you, Vera. Okay, let me move on to another question. Igor, I hope that answers it because I can talk for a while. Goliath, what are your tips on shooting fireworks on a DSLR, seeing as New Year's is coming? Ooh, good question. Fireworks. Let me just scroll down just to see anybody. I was thinking of filming mostly in the daytime, says Igor. Park, great channel. Greetings from Japan. Thank you, Jai-sang. Thank you, Jai-sang. Okay, I'll try to go a little bit quicker because I have more questions here. This is great. Thank you, guys. Goliath, what are your tips on shooting fireworks on a DSLR, seeing as New Year's is coming up? Tripod, definitely tripod. Slow shutter, slow shutter. The tough thing about fireworks is focus as well. If you rely on autofocus, it's tough because there's nothing for the camera to autofocus on. So what I would do is tripod, number one. The second thing I would do is turn it into manual focus. I would try to find something that's really far away because the fireworks are usually pretty far away. And it's dark, so it's like find something on the ground, like a light that's in the distance, like a light bulb that's in the distance. Find that and focus on that. Make sure you're in focus. Take a picture, look at it, make sure it's in focus. Then leave the focus there. Then go back and do slow shutter, and just it's pretty easy. Once you have the tripod and the focus set, just put your shutter down to even a second, like 1 second exposure is cool. Maybe a half a second, because the firework will go boom, and just after the explosion, be like shutter opens, like so it's boom. I'll do it slow mo. So the firework goes boom, right? It's like a second. So I'd say the firework goes up and it goes boom, click. So now the shutter's open. Click, boom, ka-chant, right there. So it's like, I'll just do the sound of the shutter. So it's ka-chant, ka-chant, right there. So about a 3/4 of a second. And that way, the whole time the shutter is open, those fireworks are blooming with light. So when you have the shutter open for a lot of that time, that is going to be in the picture. You're going to see the whole full bloom of the firework, which is nice. It's super important you're on a tripod, because if you're not on a tripod, then other shit will be moving in the frame besides just the firework. You want to have the only thing moving in the frame is the firework. That's firework photography right there. I hope that answered your question. I think, I don't know who that was actually. That was Goliath. Goliath, I hope you saw it. I hope that answered your question. So let me move on. Henrik Bengtsson. Hey, very interesting. I'm very interested in buying a light meter and a light kit. Do you think I should invest in some Chinese Fresnels or LED? Huh. Let me think about that. I don't know the price difference. To me, it's like lights are lights. You're going to spend money. So to me, the question is Fresnel or LED? Fresnel or LED? Because there are LED lights that are just as expensive as Fresnel. Ooh. Oh, home run? Oh, wait, no, that was a replay. Sorry. That's tough. Fresnels or LEDs? There's pros and cons. Fresnels get hot, you know. So, you know, a Fresnel will get hot. It'll heat up the room, you know, and it'll be hard to touch afterwards. So just practical reasons. LEDs, for the most part, are cool. LED lights will have, you know, will stay cool. They're easier to use. You don't have to worry about like fires or things burning. So that's cool. I'm using an LED to light me up right now. You probably can't tell from the stream, but you can see my shadow behind me. With an LED, I can see it here. You can see on the shadow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can see 12 different lines with my own eyes. I can see 12 different lines of the shadow. And occasionally you can see it on people's faces too. So with an LED light, there's multiple light emitting diodes in the fixture. There can be 7. There could be, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 12 by 8. Oh my God, what's 12 times 8? A lot. 88, 8 plus 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. 96 LED light emitting diodes in that panel right there. So because there's multiple tiny points of light in an LED, you might get weird shadows. You know, you might get these weird stripy, gritty looking shadows. Now, if you don't have a shadow in your shot, if you're doing interviews and you have a lot of play behind you, you're doing an interview and there's like 500 feet behind you that's open. You don't see any shadows. LED works, you know. But if you're doing a film, if you're doing a short film, and you really want a nice, beautiful, crisp look, and you want to play with shadows, you don't want the shadows to look gritty and weird. So I would say if most of what you're doing is interviews, quick lighting setups, I would say LEDs are fine. If you're doing more short film, you know, darker, playing with noir stuff, or just film in general, I would stick with Fresnels because the shadows are softer. Then again, you could soften an LED light. Arri makes LED Fresnel type things that have a sort of a diffuser in front of it. You could always shoot the LED into a white cloth and use that as your light. So, but if you're doing noir stuff where you are seeing a shadow, where you're trying to make a shadow, and you want the shadow to be of a certain quality, LEDs will fail you if you're being very scrutinizing. That's basically all I can say about that. I mean, like with every one of these questions, I could go on and on and on. Only work with redheads and some cheap LEDs. Yeah, so cheap LEDs will do what I said. Hope you big success. Thanks. Blah, blah, blah. Classic one. What's more important, camera or lens? Der Geekon. Der Geekon. Classic one. That's your name. That's the name. What is more important, camera or lens? What is more important, your camera or your lens? It's funny because if you don't have a camera, you're not making a photo. You're not making a film. You don't have the camera. So if you don't have the camera, you don't have anything. It's like chicken or the egg. So in a way, without the camera, doesn't matter what lens you have. You could have you know what I mean? Like, so long as you have a camera, your lens could be cheap, your lens could be very expensive, but at least if you have the camera, you're going to make something. So, you know, so it's tough. Then again, if you have a camera, a lens can make it look really nice. I would argue that the camera is probably more important because the camera is going to give you the ergonomics, the camera is going to give you the codec, it's going to give you the capabilities, it's going to give you the processing, it has the sensor. I would argue that, you know, you could always rent really expensive lenses for a particular project, you know, and you put your money into a lens that you like and what that lens is going to do for you, you know. You know that for the most part you love low light photography, so get a fast prime. You know for the most part you shoot stuff in the day, get a zoom that's a 3.5 to 5.6. You know for the most part you're going to do portraits, you know, and that's going to be your bread and butter. You're going to be hired because you're going to be doing portraits. So get a nice portrait lens, an 85 1.2 prime, beautiful portrait lens. And the good thing about that is that when the newer camera comes out, you can invest in that. But this camera I've had since 2010, the 5D Mark II. And I said I was going to get a Mark III, but I didn't because nobody could really tell, you know. Clients couldn't really tell. Photographers can tell. Nobody could really tell. So in that sense, yeah, I don't know. I hope I answered it. Rob Blair says, why you so sexy for? You know, good genes, I guess. Gene. Mesh, what do you do for footage storage and backup? Good question. Not what most people do. Most professional people have RAIDs set up, servers set up. I know a few people who have servers. Those are really expensive, but they're easy and they make you not think about it. So what you're paying for is peace of mind, ignoring things, and just, my stuff's backed up. So that's what you're paying for. If you don't have the money for that, what we do is we have hard drives and they fill up, and eventually we have to get new hard drives because we ran out of space. So what we do is we get 2 hard drives. Excuse me, I'm burping from the Coke. We get 2 hard drives, and whatever number we're up to, we'll say, okay, this is hard drive 13. Then with the other hard drive is hard drive 13 backup. And we buy internal hard drives, but we have these docks that sit on our desktops. They're internal drive docks. So what's cool about that is you know, the plugs are all there, and it's just, you're just swapping drives. So that's nice. We don't do RAIDs. We don't do a RAID, just because I've tried to do RAIDs, and if you're trying to do RAIDs cheaply, it just gets annoying. So what we do is we have hard drive 13 backup. We dump our footage onto one, and then we copy it onto the other one. Takes more time, but it feels good because we've seen it. There it is. Copy it over. Boom. It's backed up. And occasionally, if we have a really important gig or if we have a job for a big client, we may even triple back it up on like a portable drive somewhere, just in case. I know that's not what people do, but hey, we got stuff backed up for cheap. We're saving money. And it takes a little bit more time. It's a little bit more labor intensive, but that's why it's cheaper, because it's more labor intensive. So do you want to put your money into saving time, or do you want to put your money into other areas? You know what I mean? So that's what we do for footage and storage. It's not the nicest thing, but that's what it is. I was thinking of filming mostly during daytime. Oh, that's Igor. And Jaisung Park says, great channel. Oh, thank you. Can you talk about framing and composition? From Ty Dawson. Can I talk about framing? Yes, I can talk about framing and composition. There are rules, you know, but then there are also, then you can break the rules. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you frame the way you like to frame it. Do you want to put someone here? You know, you want to cut off their head like this? Go for it. Why not? What does this mean? I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to the people looking. The rules are the rule of thirds. You've probably heard the rule of thirds. So you can break up the frame into thirds. So that's 2 lines, because look, there's one here, third number 1, third number 2, third number 3. This is tough. 1, 2, 3. But you can also go this way. you know? So you got the top here, you got the middle third, and you got the bottom third, right? So you can see right now, the way I have this framed is my eyes are living inside this top third here, this top third of the frame. My mouth is living in this third of the frame, and my body is living in this third of the frame. That's this composition. Now, you could do it like this. Most people, when they web chat, are like this, because center just seems right to them. Center. They're in the center. So this I would consider bad composition, bad framing. Just because it's like, I don't know, what's going on up here? Nothing. Like, doesn't need to be there. So we go like that. Looks a little bit nicer, I think. Some people don't care. Some people think this is fine. Okay, cool. If you think it's fine, I don't really care. This is just a friggin' Ask Steve episode. Like, what does it matter? So long as you can see and hear me, that's probably fine. But why not throw that little bit of extra professionalism in there? You know, I think that's what composition really is all about. It's like, unless, you know what I mean? Like, you have to look like you know what you're doing and be professional and have a little bit of polish. And people go, wow, that person knows what they're doing. Then when people are really familiar with your work and they know that you know what you're doing, then when you go like this, they know it wasn't a mistake. They know that what you did, this choice to go like this, was a purposeful choice. And they go, I wonder why he did it like that. He obviously knows what he's doing. He knows he should be here. So why did he put him here? Maybe there's some kind of thing about this poster that they wanted people to see, or you know what I mean? So you start asking questions. But to do that right out of the gate, to be like artsy and weird right out of the gate is risky. But then again, you may impress people because they may think like, wow, this person really knows what they're doing, and they're risky and they're ballsy and stuff. So if you had any other, if I didn't answer what, if I didn't talk about what you thought I was going to talk about with framing and composition, let me know. Igor, thanks for sharing this. Helps a lot. I was able to understand everything better because of your Videography 101. Thanks a million times. You're welcome a million times. 96, yeah. Ale Shah, I have watched your 2 videos. Are there any more? Will you be teaching further after basic settings and light metering? Well, I'm doing this, so I thank you for being here. I'll take suggestions on more things you'd like to know. I want to do another tutorial about lenses, wide, medium, tight, fast, slow. You know, deep focus, you know, stuff like that. I also want to do another tutorial about focus, autofocus, and manual focus. I have a long overdue green screen tutorial. I mean, there's so many. I want to do an interview show where I bring people in that I know and just talk to them about what they do in the film biz. I want to do more filmmaking advice with Cody. And this video here is just a reminder that I'm thinking about all these things, and my schedule permitting, we'll start making them. It's only going to help my career to keep this channel going and to get it more and more popular. So that's what I'm thinking about doing, Ale. Safir 3000, what's your opinion on the new MacBook Pros? I desperately need one, but the pricing just seems insane. The pricing is friggin' insane. You know what's funny? I'm streaming right now on a brand new laptop we just got, and it's an old MacBook Pro. But it's awesome. It's more powerful than the iMac I've been using. I don't really have an opinion on it. I think that bar that is cool, but I don't think it's game-changing. You know, I think Apple has been very game-changing usually. Like, I think, you know, I was talking to someone about it, and they were expecting touchscreen monitor, like the Surface, like the Microsoft Surface, like being able to draw on the screen, or being able to remove the screen, or flipping it completely backwards, just like the Surface. Basically doing stuff more like the Surface. But instead of that, they give you one little thin thing for touch. That's it, just one little touch area on the new MacBook. Whereas they could have done stuff on the screen. So to me, that's, not only is that, I don't know, not only, that's just keeping up now, you know? So, I don't know. It's very interesting. Ale says, I have Canon T6i. I take novice photos. I am willing to give dedication, but I need someone to guide me. My lens is 18-55. Will be making more videos. I will be making more videos, especially about lenses, so stay tuned. Ty Dawson, best setting on camera to shoot dark concert with concert lights going everywhere. Well, see, that's the thing. Concerts aren't dark. That's a kind of a funny thing. The people on stage have lights on them, and they're usually pretty damn bright. So Really anything could help. Anything will really do there. Best settings on camera to shoot dark concert lights going everywhere. So for the most part, every concert I've been to, they're pretty well lit. So it's more about doing manual exposure because it's very dark except for certain areas, you know what I mean? But, you know, the camera would tell you, oh, you need to be at like an f1.4, but the person's face is actually like an f8. So, you know, I would say the best settings might be kind of not what you think they are. They kind of would be brighter, you know what I mean? Usually the concert lights are bright on the person. So I would know just by looking, I guess, but I would start at like an f8 and work yourself from there. It's probably brighter than you think. If you're looking to turn around and get the crowd, that's tougher because that's definitely going to be dark. But mostly the people on stage at these concerts with concert lighting, it's actually brighter than you think. But I would say manual exposure, and it's going to be higher than you think. Ale, I also want to take photo of human, like traffic is moving behind and couple is standing in the frame. What should I do? Slow shutter. That's definitely a slow shutter on a tripod. So I would say, Ale, for that kind of a shot, you want to be on a tripod. You want the couple to be pretty still. And you want to do like a second exposure just as a car is going by. So they have to be still. The camera has to be still on a tripod and about a half second exposure. So once you lock your camera at a half a second or a second, you know, look at your light meter and get a proper reading by lowering your ISO and upping the, you know, closing down on your iris. You'll be able to do it. Goliath. With social media and stuff, they often compress the photos you upload and it looks blurry or not how it should look. How should you counter this? That's a great question. It happens a lot also with video. You know, for a while, Vimeo, we've been putting our stuff on Vimeo. And for a while, I'd say maybe a month or two ago, they finally like upgraded their player. So you can do like 4K and stuff. And things look a lot better now. But we would put stuff up on Vimeo and we'd be like, I compressed the hell out of this. It looks horrible. And we wouldn't want to show people. But now, like I said, it's gotten better. But with photos, you know, I'm not too sure. They often compress the photos you upload and it looks blurry or not how it should look. How should you counter this? I'm not sure there's a way to counter it, man. I'd say make sure the photo isn't blurry. Make sure it's you know, clear. Make sure it's good. And try to, when you upload the photo, try to upload the highest resolution you can. The website has to compress it. It's just what they have to do. But if you start with a really high resolution, you know, uncompressed image, then that's better because you don't want it to compress an already compressed image, you know. So yeah, but it's tough. But I haven't really seen, in my experience, when I upload like DSLR photos to like Instagram or Facebook, for the most part, it looks pretty good. And you have to remember, people are looking at this stuff on their phone, and usually on a phone, it looks really good. It's only when you go on like a computer that it gets like, you blow it up on the computer and you're like, oh wow, yeah, it compressed that a lot. But for the most part, if they're looking at the phone, you're probably fine. Ale, thanks. It would be definitely interested in manual focus. Ale, if you guide human photography, it would be great. Like someone is standing or moving, and I try to take photo. That's a good idea, Ale. That is an idea that I had for a thing where I have a camera, and I'm with a subject, and we're out on a photo shoot, and someone is filming me, and I'm talking to them as I'm filming. So it's like basically like being with me on a photo shoot, and I'd be talking about what I'm doing with like a reflector and what my settings are going to be. I think that's a great idea. The problem with that is that, you know, it requires more than just me. I need a subject and I need someone to film me and I need an assistant. So it's hard to get that off the ground just because it's like, you know, scheduling and just convincing people that this is a good thing to do. But I think that's a great idea. I think that would be very valuable, actually. Ale, thanks. Where is your business established? I would love to follow you around and see your work. I'm in New York City. So if you're around there, definitely send us an email. Our email is on my website, rethink-films. So if you're in New York City, please let me know. Saphir 3000. So would you say a MB Pro 15 from last year will be enough for a wannabe filmmaker like me for editing 4K SLR footage? I don't know what MB Pro, oh, MacBook Pro 15 from last year would be enough. For 4K, I guess it depends on what 4K camera it is. 4K is tough. The new MacBooks, you probably would. You probably want like at least, like a quad core. You want at least like 16 gigabytes. 4K is tough because it's very high res. You won't even really be able to see 4K on a MacBook. You'd need a 4K display. But yeah, I'd say a MacBook Pro that's a quad core with max memory could probably handle 4K. But that is one area that I'm kind of interested to see how it works. We, about, I don't know, 5 months ago, we just got our new like work. No, it was a year ago. A year ago, we got a like our workhorse computer we got to do 4K. And we didn't even get a Mac Pro. We didn't get the trash can. We got an iMac. We got a 27-inch iMac. But we got like some of the best stats on it that you can get. Maxed out RAM, one of the best processors. But we wanted the iMac because it was definitely cheaper. And the Mac Pro is actually, even the base Mac Pro, first of all, it's really expensive, but even the base Mac Pro is like overqualified for 4K. That's for like cinema quality, graphic rendering. That's the kind of stuff that they like render, Iron Man on and stuff. So we weren't doing that. So we decided like a pretty souped up 27-inch iMac was actually good. And from what I've seen, I don't have it here. It lives at Cody's studio because he does more editing than me. But I've seen him run 4K footage smooth. If I try to run 4K footage on my iMac's from 2010, it doesn't go. It skips. I haven't tried it on this MacBook yet because it's brand new. I just got it like a couple days ago. So that's a great thing I should do. I'm going to get some 4K footage, put it on this laptop, hit play, and just see if it plays. I haven't done it yet. I'm not going to do it now because I got all this stream stuff going. Saphir, you should email me or something, and once I do the test, I'll let you know how it runs on this MacBook, and I'll let you know the specs of this MacBook. Goliath, you said before in how you would know what aperture to use by looking at it. How long and how many pictures did it take for you to be able to have this sense? Well, I've been taking photos since 2002. 2002 was my first photography class, and I learned photography on a film camera, 35 millimeter film, and we had to go into the dark room and enlarge. I worked in a dark room. I was in high school. So I've been taking photos since 2002. So what is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 14 years. So yeah, you get it. 14 years it took me. And I'm still learning. So yeah, I'd say it took me about 14 years to get that sense. Ale, thanks. I would definitely be interested in manual focus. If you, I would think I said that. Business established, I said that. Have a sense. Mesh, can you recommend a video card for 4K for a desktop? No, I can't. Only because I don't know. I don't know that well enough. Especially if you're working on PC. I don't know video cards very well. I just get Macs. We work on Macs. And I don't know what the video cards are. So if you look up 2015 or 2015 iMac 27-inch and look at like their fastest video card, that's what we edit 4K on. I don't know what that card is, but it works. I'm sorry. That's one area, I need to learn more about. Saphir, thank you for answering. So is your company bought into the Apple ecosystem more, or do you use Windows systems as well? We are Apple. We are pretty much bought into the Apple ecosystem. We don't use Windows for anything, unfortunately. Rosie Aura TV. What's your favorite camera at the moment, and what camera would you recommend for filming for cheap? Maybe range of 1,000 to 1,500. 1,000 to 1,500. Good question. 1,000 to 1,500 for filming cheap. For doing video. Well, your name is TV, so yeah, video. You guys hear me okay? Hope you guys can hear me okay. God, I guess like a cheaper DSLR, like maybe a T6i or whatever the newest Rebel is. I don't remember what or the 7D Mark II is good. I forget how much a 7D Mark II costs. But you could probably get a 7D Mark II with a kit lens for under 1,500. 7D Mark II is good. So I'd say that. Like a cheaper Canon DSLR. Mesh is saying the GH4. I've never used the GH4. I think that's Panasonic. Well, actually, I think I've shot on the Panasonic GH4. So, yeah, Panasonic's good, you know. I'm just used to Canon. I've been shooting on Canon for so long. Before Canon, I had a Sony. I had a Sony V1U. But back in the days before DSLRs, Panasonic was great. The Panasonic HVX, the DVX, I remember, then the HVX, the P2. Oh man, the P2. Shot my thesis film on the P2. That's pretty awesome. Goliath, another question, yet again. Great, keep them coming. Thanks for the answers, by the way. With mirrorless cameras rising, do you think they will grow bigger than DSLRs or replace them? Probably. Yeah, probably. I think eventually mirrorless will... I don't think DSLRs and mirror cameras will ever go away. I think there'll always be people who want to do that just like DSLR, so I don't think they're ever going to die or go away. But I do think mirrorless is going to surpass them. I've shot with the Sony A7S II, the 4K one, the one that does 120 frames in 1080, which is really nice. And it does 4K, and that's mirrorless, and it's fine, you know. I used it with I was working with that with an adapter so that I could put the Canon lenses on it. So yeah, I do think that mirrorless will yeah, I do. I don't know what else. Saphir, would you say Final Cut X is still relevant? A lot of people seem to move to Adobe. I have to learn Adobe. I'm learning it more, but I still edit on Final Cut Pro 7. I still edit on Final Cut Pro 7. Not even X, before X, pre-X. That's what I edit on. I've never used Final Cut Pro X. When it came out, it was so lacking that I never changed. And by the time they fixed all the things that it was lacking, I already forgot about it. And then Premiere came out. My business partner, Cody, he's the more of the editor. So he edits on Premiere, and he likes it a lot. But there are even things in Premiere that are harder to do than in Final Cut. Premiere wants you to move over to Photoshop and move over to After Effects and then come back. And it is integrated and it is nice. But it was nice when you could do more technical stuff in Final Cut rather than having to jump out to another program. So it gets annoying, but that's the case. But I still edit on Final Cut Pro 7. Even Flow. I still use Final Cut Pro X. Not as good as 7, but it's cheaper. Yeah. That's so true. Not as good as 7. See? And plus the other thing is, like, I'm so fast at Final Cut Pro 7 because I've been editing on 7. Well, I've been editing on that kind of thing since 2005, you know. I took editing in college in like 2000, I think it was my second year or first year, so I guess it was 2004, 2003, 2004. And back then I think was Final Cut 4. And I remember when 5 and 6 and then 7 came out. And so I've been working on that for a decade or more. And so I'm just so fast. I know all the hotkeys. I'm like, I know everything is. And to then go to like X or Premiere, it's just an ergonomic thing. Like, I don't know where that button is. I know the hotkeys, you can import the hotkeys over, but some of them don't work. Some hotkeys that I use like really deep cut hotkeys, you know? And so like, I'll do something in Premiere and it's like, that hotkey doesn't work. Shit. Where the hell is that now? What does that icon look like? And it's like, my flow is gone. You know what I mean? And it sucks. But I know that like once I learn it and I start getting used to it, I can get the flow back. But it just sucks losing it. It sucks. Safir, I would love to move to Adobe as well, but I can't afford the monthly fee at the moment. It's tough. It's really tough because it's like, you know, when you're a professional and you're doing consistent work, then part of the money that you make from doing consistent work goes towards the monthly fee, and it goes towards equipment and stuff. And but it's like you can't start doing that work until you have those things, but you can't have those things because you're not getting work. So it's a very tough thing. You do a little bit of time, you invest here and there, you work with what you got, and it's a little bit at a time. That's all I can say. I cannot say your name. DWFG. I'm going to try to pronounce it. So, DiCasaFilm. You said thoughts on the new MacBook Pros. I already answered that question. So once the stream is over, you can go back and watch. But basically, I'm disappointed-ish. Like, I don't really care, but I think that Apple should have done more. I think the MacBooks could have had like a touch screen like the Surface, or you could fold it completely behind, you know, like the Surface. But no, just got you a little bar, which is cool, but I don't think it's game changing. Goliath, with 14 years of experience, you must have taken pictures and videos in different situations and places. What would you say is the most interesting or most fun shoot you have had? Interesting or fun? Interesting or fun shoot? You know, nothing's coming to mind. I think probably, I don't know. Let me think about that and I'll come back to it. Oh, it's Klingon. It means lone gray wolf in Klingon. Or I guess Targ. Lone gray Targ in Klingon. Rosie Ora TV, Apple has been slacking. I guess so, yeah. Steve Jobs, man. We need him back. We need to rise him from the dead. Zombie Steve Jobs. You know, I was Steve Jobs for Halloween a couple years ago. The year he died, I was Steve Jobs for Halloween. People were like, too soon. I was like, yeah, I guess. Headshot Shane. I remember you, man. We met at a skate park a while ago. Hey, man, I don't know if you remember this, but maybe like 6 or 7 years back, my friend and I were at a skate park in Walden. We met you there and talked about YouTube at the same time. I remember Headshot Shane. A headphone user's rip. I remember. How you been? Hope you're well. Hope everything's good. That was 6 or 7 years ago? Jesus Christ. I feel like that was like 3 years tops. 3. Even Flow, DDT. I remember your video on video sound, the Zoom H4n. Given how long it's been out, have you found a better machine? We just bought a Zoom H6, like literally a week ago. So I've been using the H4 for a long time, but I had to buy another one because what happened was let me show you. I'll be right back. So I don't do weddings all the time. We do them very sparingly. Because I started shooting weddings in like 2003 when I started going to college. So I still do some every now and again. You know, we do more stuff than weddings. But usually at a wedding, what I do is I take the Zoom and I have an Israel arm on it, like this. Tighten it up. And these are great, these Israel arms. And what I do is I use a super clamp here and I clamp this to the speaker pole of the amplifier. at the wedding, because there's the pole and then there's the speaker, at the party. And I clamp this to the thing, and then I clamp it here, and then I use this thing to just angle the microphone at the speaker, just as a backup. And it has to be very low because the speakers are really loud. Just as a backup. I usually get a line out of the DJ and record that, but I also put this up and just mic the speaker just as a backup. But you can see I've screwed in the Israel arm to the back of the Zoom. But what happened was I go to unscrew it, and you can see it's kind of broken. What happened was the thing that you screw it into, so like this is the hole, right, with the screw, and you screw something in here like this. The metal piece that's in the back of the Zoom, the metal piece is loose and is swimming inside the Zoom. So I'm trying to unscrew this here. I'm trying to unscrew this part, but what's happening is the whole piece is turning. So I can't, it's like forever screwed in there. So whenever these batteries die, that's a downfall of this, is that you have to unscrew this to get to the battery compartment. I can't open the battery compartment because this is clamped in, and I can't get rid of this because of the swimming thing. So once these batteries die, that's the end of our H4n. And we wouldn't have bought anything else probably, except because that happened. I mean, it still works if you plug it in, but now it's like, now it has to be plugged in until I figure out how to. And even if I were to break that out of there, now it can never be mounted again. So what do? I'm screwed. So we had to get something new. So we got the Zoom. We skipped over the 5 and we went straight to the H6. And if you don't know anything about the H6, it's amazing. It has 4 XLR inputs, 2 here and 2 here. I don't have it with me, it's at Cody's, but it has 4 inputs, 2 here and 2 here, and it has this beautiful digital color display, and oh, it's awesome. It's really awesome. So, and it's cheap. It was $300 or something. It was as much as this was when this was new. So I'm all about the H6. So I should do another video about the H6. Do the exact same video, but with that one. Jamal, excuse me, I burped. Jamal, you're here. I've been waiting for you, Jamal. Hello, I'm searching for a good movie edit program. Could you give me some advice? You got Final Cut Pro X. You got Adobe Premiere. That's about it. You got Avid. You got iMovie. So all else fails, use iMovie. There used to be one Sony, Vegas. There was Vegas. Yeah. But if you're looking for cheap, if you're looking for just something to do, go with iMovie. Headshot Shane. Yeah, I was 8. Now I'm 14. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Damn, was 6 years ago. Good Lord. Well, I hope you're well. I hope you've since had many awesome experiences. Even Flow. That is not a bad machine, the H4n. I know. I have a Zoom H6, says Mesh. Great. That got XXX rating real fast. Oh, this thing? Yeah, it did. Rob Blair. Going to be doing some on-the-scene recording for my podcast. What would you recommend for mobile audio recording? All else fails, your phone. Honestly, if you put on your voice memo on the phone and just keep it close, it's pretty damn good. I'd say do a practice, but it's pretty awesome. They also sell microphones that you can put in here and use, but you can even take your headphone, plug your headphone into it, and hold that up to somebody else. I mean, you can't monitor it, but usually the voice memo on the phone is pretty damn good, Rob. Even Flow, what are reviews on the Tascam DR60? The Tascam DR60 is pretty much exactly the same as the Zoom H4n. Zoom H4n was getting so popular back in the day, but people in the business, people in film, never heard of Zoom. Zoom's been around for a while. Zoom has been around in the music community. There have been Zoom recorders for a while, but only guitarists, violinists, musicians knew about it. in the film world, especially sound guy world, nobody heard of Zoom. But they had Tascams. They had these big Tascam mixers. So Zoom was doing really well with like indie, with like Canon people, but like these sound guys are like, I don't know Zoom. I don't want to do Zoom, but fuck it. I don't know. I don't want to buy a Zoom. I like Tascam. And Tascam was smart. They were like, let's just make a Zoom. Let's make our own Zoom. It'd be almost exactly the same. Same settings, same compression, same inputs, almost the same interface. But it'll be Tascam. And let's put it out there and then compete with the Zoom. And they did. And a lot of sound dudes who are loyal to Tascam went with that. But there's really no difference in terms of quality that I can hear. Even ergonomics, even like other features of it, they're almost identical. So to me, it's like the only difference is if you're brand loyal to Tascam and you just didn't like Zoom. For you, Zoom seemed like a weird company you didn't really know anything about. Andy Hayes. Steve, when color correcting for a projector, have you ever had to lift the blacks to the point where it looks bad on your reference monitor? I've never had that problem. Whenever we had anything screened to a projector, I had nothing to do with the calibrating. That was up to the screening place. The screening place had their projector calibrated their own way. So I don't know anything about calibrating for projectors or calibrating monitors or anything. I would definitely call up your closest, or not even your closest. I would just find a place that projects and cares about it and ask them, because I really don't know. I really don't know. That's a great question, though. Jamal, I use now Sony Platinum. Cool. I hope it's good. Evenflow, I had a Zoom guitar effects pedal back in the day. Nice. I still have it somewhere. My Metal Zone. I have a Metal Zone pedal. People tell me that's actually like coveted. They're not expensive. They're just like coveted. I saw a Halloween costume. Someone dressed up as a Metal Zone pedal. Andy Hayes. I've got an H6 too. It's been really great. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. Saphir, what are your favorite websites? Filmmaking, photography, news. You know what's funny? I'm the worst. I subscribe and I go and I read video game stuff all the time. Like I know about the PlayStation Pro and the Xbox One S and all that stuff. I'm like into video games. I just got Skyrim. Can't wait to play Skyrim. Oh my God. I want to stream that too. If anybody likes video games, please follow me on my Twitch account, Steve of House. I'm a big gamer. But I don't really follow filmmaking and photography news. The most filming and photography news I get are from newsletters from B&H and from Adorama, because I've been there and I'm on their newsletter. So like I didn't even know the 5D Mark IV was out until I saw Adorama or B&H and it was like just released the 5D Mark IV. I'm like, oh shit, what can it do? And I looked at all the specs and stuff, and it still doesn't have good enough. It doesn't even have as good specs as the A7S too. So it's like, wow, what are you doing, Canon? Like, give us 120 frames at 1080. Sony A7S is doing 120 frames at 1080, and you're telling me that you're doing 120 frames at 720 on the Mark IV? Not cool. Not cool. Maybe they'll do it firmware. I don't know. So I don't really have favorite websites. I've heard of places. There's canonrumors.com, things like that. Jamal, I have a problem. I make movie from pictures, but I can't scale them down to actually become a movie. Like I can go down to 0.8 seconds PF, which is slow. I think I have to take some expensive software. Jamal, there's a language problem here. I'm not fully understanding what you're saying. I don't quite understand. I think what you're saying is when you make a movie from your camera, it's recording in a different frame rate other than what you want it to be. That does kind of suck, but there's so many questions to ask. There are so many things that it's really hard to figure out what you're talking about. Give me a second. I need to change batteries on my LED. I have batteries ready, so I'm ready to go. Hang on. I was prepared for that. Okay. Battlefield 1 looks awesome. Yeah, I know. Looks pretty dope. I'm on Twitch too sometimes. I watch people on Twitch, and I've watched people play Battlefield 1. It does look dope. The stories and stuff look really cool. The graphics look great. Andy Hayes, don't know if you've covered this yet, but what are your thoughts on the new Apple MacBook Pro? You're the third person to ask that, and I'll say it again. It's not game-changing enough. Apple is supposed to be a game-changing thing, and that little bar didn't impress me. I thought it was cool. I thought it was very cool. You put your emojis up there, you can customize it. It's a little slider for your stuff, but why can't you just use the trackpad to slide, you know? I was expecting something like touch screen on the monitor. I was expecting something like folding the laptop all the way back to make it like another tablet. That's what I was expecting. You know, I don't know. Should have been more game-changing. Canon is the Apple for cameras. I suppose so. Not as sleek, though. Even flow. This isn't a question, but I like this use of YouTube. It's like I watch a video of this guy that knows his stuff, but now we can talk to them. I know. The future is awesome, right? We're living in the future. In like 30 years, we'll have like headsets on, and we can all be in the same room. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to sit here, put my thing on, and I'm going to see all you guys. You know? And I'll be able to talk to you and demonstrate stuff. That'll be cool. Can't wait for that. I also can't wait to get like fake limbs. I want a robotic arm. I want robotic eyes. I want all that shit. I want all those augmentations from video games. I want my hair to come back. Nah, I like my bald head. I'm into my bald head. I think it's cool. Goliath, I don't know if this was asked before, but why choose Canon from brands like Nikon? Also, what is the answer to the previous question about most interesting or fun shoot? Sorry, Goliath, I haven't. Most interesting or fun shoot? Okay, you know what's the most fun? Believe it or not, a couple years ago, I was working at a company called Maker, and we were doing a lot of fashion week stuff. Like, there's 2 fashion weeks. There's one in the fall and one in the spring. And that was really fun because we got to go backstage at the fashion shows, see all the beautiful models get their makeup on, all the different creative runway shows. Just feeling like I'm hot shit because I have a badge and I can go backstage and talk to the designers. I interviewed a couple of celebrities. Yeah, fashion, I miss doing that. That's the one thing that I haven't done since leaving Maker, but fashion shows have always been really cool. And actually, it was at a fashion show that I got the idea to do my DSLR basic settings tutorial because DSLRs got so popular and more people were using DSLRs, and I'd be shooting at a fashion show on a DSLR using my filmmaking and photography knowledge, and other people who were there for jobs, who were hired to be there. Let's say, for instance, someone was from, you know, Refinery 29 or some fashion blog, and they were like, hey, you're a fashion blogger, or you're writing for our fashion section. Take this DSLR. These DSLRs are really popular now. Go out and do some coverage of Fashion Week. Okay, and they put it on auto. They're not a photographer, they're not a filmmaker, but you know, content. Got to get content. And so I was at like a fashion show. I was shooting some B-roll or shooting some stuff, and somebody with a DSLR was like, "Whoa, that looks great. What are your settings?" And I'm like, "My settings are like proper settings." And they were, and I was like, I've been just using auto. And I'm like, why are you here? Aren't you a photographer? No, you know, I was told to come here and get stuff. Huh. Well, I mean, it would take me a while to explain to you why these are the proper settings. You know, ISO, f-stop, shutter speed. And that's when I realized that more and more people are using DSLRs. More and more people who are not photographers are getting DSLRs and becoming photographers. And I was like, someone needs to make a good YouTube. And I searched. I went on YouTube and I was like, DSLR basic settings tutorial, DSLR tutorial. And they were all like 3 minutes long. They were poorly shot. They said ISO, shutter speed, and this, but they didn't explain what it was.
We're just like, your shutter speed needs to be fast, and your shutter speed needs to be this, and your ISO and your f-stop. And it's like, dude, you're not even explaining what the f-stop is. You're just saying f-stop. They're seeing the screen go dark and brighter, but they don't know what the hell's happening in the thing. And I was like, somebody needs to make this. So I sat down and I figured out everything. I sat down and I was like, okay, here, this is what f-stop is. This is what shutter speed. This is what this is. Wait, is that right? Let me Google search. Okay, that's right. What's shutter? I even had a whole section of my thing that I thought was right, but then afterwards I looked it up and I was like, wow, that's really wrong, and I got rid of it, specifically with shutter. So that's another tutorial I want to make. I want to make one about shutter speed and about how the shutter works and stuff, because that's very mysterious in a way. And then, and then I realized, okay, I'm going to talk about f-stop, then I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to do this, and it's like, okay, well, f-stop has this byproduct of depth of field. But depth of field, you know what? I'm going to put depth of field at the end, and I just realized, I don't know, it's kind of. People tell me that I explain things well, and I just figured that way of learning it was the easiest, and it was 50 minutes or 52 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm entertaining. I think it's working. I think it's fun to watch. They're going to learn some stuff, and yes, people are going to be put off by the fact that it's like almost an hour long. But one of the most common responses and comments that I get is like, didn't think I was going to watch all 52 minutes. It went by like it was 5 minutes, and I'm like, awesome, that's great. So, what the hell was your question? Oh, what was the most interesting, fun thing? Fashion Week. And that's where I got the idea for that. Why choose Canon from brands like Nikon? And there's a few more questions here that I'm going to get to. Let me try to answer this one. Now, this is a huge one, too. It's kind of like, Canon or Nikon, or Sony. What are the differences between these brands? And to me, it's like red wine, white wine. What are the differences between red wine and white wine, or rosé, or champagne? Well, it's all wine. It's all alcoholic. It all tastes good. But white wine's a little bit, lighter. Red wine's a little bit dark, more viscous. And there's all these little nuances. And at the end of the day, it's like, what do you like? Try them all. I find that I like red wine more. I used to like white wine at first. Now I like red wine more, And in terms of like video and photography, from my experience, and people out there, this is contextual, but from my experience, Canon is a great mix of video and photo and video. They're mostly photography for the DSLRs, but their video stuff is good, and it does what it needs to do. It's usable for really high-end applications. Whereas Nikon, their video stuff is kind of more thrown in, and their cameras are much more ergonomically designed for photographers. There are buttons and spots that, like, like when a photographer takes a picture, they're only taking pictures this way half the time. The other half of the time, they're like this. And on a Nikon camera, there's a shutter button here. So you go like this, and there's a shutter button here. That's awesome. That's so ergonomic for photographers. That doesn't exist on the Canon. There's no button there. But if you're a photographer and you're clicking, you go like this, it's more ergonomic to have the shutter button here rather than have to go like this, get all the way over here to the shutter button. You're here. Little things like that make Nikon something that's more for photographers. And to be honest, the Nikon glass, the lenses, some would say are better, sharper. They have like a distinct look. They're like more, they're kind of like red wine. It's like a little bit darker, a little bit more contrasty in Nikon, a little bit sharper, to be honest. And there are people that love Nikon glass, but the video ergonomics and the video settings and things you can do with video are better on Canon. So there are people who use Nikon lenses on Canon cameras with an adapter. I'm not that crazy. I'm not that particular. I think, might as well just have the Canon lenses. I like it when all the brands in your thing are the same. If you have the more of the brand that's the same, they're all supposed to work together. And with a Nikon going on a Canon, like, it just feels like round peg, square hole, and things don't always work, and you run into problems and stuff. So that's just me. That's just me being anal. But then, of course, now you got Sony coming into the game with video and stuff like that. So it's really all about taste, and specifically, Nikon is more for photographers, and Canon is more for photo and video. No, I take pictures and then I put them together in a program. Oh, so you're making, so Jamal, you were talking about like movie stuff. You take pictures and then you put them together in a program. Okay, so you're making like animations? Mesh, I want my hair back. Yeah, Goliath, haha. Safir, would your company ever switch even if Apple keeps making professionals unhappy? I feel like there's no other option. I hate Windows so much. I don't think we'd switch anytime soon. I don't think we'd switch anytime soon. Something really game-changing would have to happen for us to switch from Apple to other computers. And, I mean, is Apple so bad? I don't know. Mesh, I'm so happy you did these videos. I rewatch them every few months. Awesome. That's so great. Jamal, just like me and you, help me a lot. Never auto anymore. Nice. Andy Hayes, could you give us a brief teaser on the differences between frame rate versus shutter speed? Let me jump ahead for a second. With taking pictures and videos for so long, was there a point in time where you thought you had no more creativity? I'll get back to that. For Panasonic video, for video, Panasonic is the shit. Panasonic's pretty good. Papa bless these Tims. It's amazing how many views your DSLR got. I know. Thank you. Hello, how are you? Okay, I'll get back. So going back, could you give us, Andy, could you give us a brief teaser on the differences between frame rate versus shutter speed? Well, I don't have to give you a teaser. Frame rate are how many pictures or how many images are in 1 second. So you might say your frame rate is 24 frames per second or 60 frames per second. So that's for video. Frame rate only refers to video. It's in every second of video, how many still images are in each second. 24, 25, 30, 60, 12. Shutter speed could refer to video or photo. Shutter speed is, for each one of those frames, how long is the shutter open to expose light to the sensor? That's different. If you go back to film, how can I explain this? But if you go back to film, you know, film was a series of frames. Frame, 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 frame. And what would happen is there was a shutter that would close and open. This is the shutter, not the iris. And what happened was the shutter would close and the film would advance and the shutter would open, show you that frame. Then it would close, then the frame would advance. Then it would open, show you that frame, shutter would close. It would go like this. So that's how film worked. So it looked like this. If you look at it, it was very like bup, 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 bup. If it just went like this, if the shutter opened and then just went like that, all you'd see is a blur of images. You need to have that black. You need to have image black, image black, image black, image black, and each image is a little bit different from the next, and it looks like motion. So the shutter was how long is that image open for? It could be quick. It could be, so the image is there for a certain amount of time. Let's say it's 24 frames a second. So the image is sitting there in the light projecting, or the light coming to the sensor. The image, that frame is there for 1/24th of a second. So if you had a shutter speed of 1/24th of a second, then the frame is sitting there for the full amount of time. So here it comes, the frame comes over, and the shutter's open for the full amount of time that that frame is there, 1/24th of a second. So it would just be like this. It would be here it comes, open, close, open, close, open, close. If your shutter speed's a little bit faster, then, for instance, 1/48th of a second, then the shutter is open for only half the time that the frame is sitting there. So if we slow it down, here it comes. So I'm going to slow it down to 4 beats. So here it goes. Here it comes over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close. Next one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close. So now the frame is sitting there for 1/24th of a second, and the shutter is open for half that time, 1/48th of a second. That is a 180-degree shutter. Why is it a 180-degree shutter? Because shutters back in the day used to be round. They actually, so they were round. Let me get a piece of paper. So back in the day of film cameras, the shutter was this cool device that was a circle. It was a physical circle inside the camera that you have a hole in like this, and the shutter, come on, and the shutter would rotate, you know, like this. So the film would be going here. The film would be going here, advancing this way, and the shutter would be rotating like this. So obviously with a 360-degree shutter, well, actually it would be a 0-degree shutter because it's blocking the whole thing. So what you would do is, let's say you cut out of this 90 degrees. So now you have a 90-degree shutter. Well, now the film is going like this. So the frame advances, and the shutter spins, and light is now hitting the shutter. Now light is now getting blocked. This is what the light needs to hit. This is the film. Right now it's getting blocked. And as the shutter rotates, it's being exposed. And the frame is only here. So it's getting exposed, and now it's not exposed anymore. So, boom. And this thing keeps spinning. This thing is always spinning. And then right about here, the film advances, and now this shutter keeps spinning. Exposed, advance, exposed, advance. Now that's a 90-degree shutter. So it's a pretty quick amount of time. Pretty fast shutter. But if you go like this, 180-degree shutter, now as this spins, as this is spinning, right now the frame advances and it spins, exposed. Then and now it advances, spins, exposed. And when it's stopped, it advances. So that's why it's called a 180-degree shutter, because the shutter has been cut 180 degrees. And that is half the time. So the frame sits in the thing, the frame sits in where the light is getting exposed, the frame sits there for 24th of a second, and this thing rotates every 24th of a second. But because half of it's cut out and it rotates, now for half the time it was there, it's getting blocked, and the other half of the time it's getting exposed. And it turns out that 180-degree shutter looks the most like real life. It's the one that has just that magic spot of blur. You could also do more. That'd be a 270-degree shutter. So now when the frame goes, it advances, and now it's a slower shutter. Well, it's not slower. It's still rotating at the same speed, but there's just less of it now. So the frame is getting exposed for a longer period of time because it's only covering it up for a shorter amount of time. So a larger degree, 270 degrees, is a longer shutter, a longer exposure time for the frame. And then you can even go more. And then if you just get rid of it altogether, now there's nothing there. So now it's a 360-degree shutter, and now it's 1/24th. So it's there. You know, the frame advances, and there's no, basically, it's a 360-degree shutter, so it's there for the whole 1/24th of a second. So when you have 180 degrees, it's only there for half the time, so that's 1/48th of a second. When you have 90 degrees, that's 1/96th of a second. That's how the math works out to shutter speed. But that's what the whole shutter speed thing is about. Kind of went off on a big tangent there. So yeah, that's frame rate versus shutter speed. And that wasn't a teaser, and that wasn't brief. But they're two different things. Frame rate is how many frames per second. Shutter speed is how long each frame is exposed for. Goliath, with taking pictures and videos for so long, was there a point in time where you thought you had no more creativity? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because even though I have been doing this for a long time, it's usually not for me. I'm not going out there and taking photos for me. I'm going out there and taking photos or shooting video for somebody else, trying to get a job done, trying to make something happen. So in times like that, to me, creativity comes from limitations. You can't really be creative if you have no limitations. I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds counterintuitive. But think about it. You have any option you want. You have all the options in the world. Okay, well, I guess you can be kind of random and just pick one. But is that creative? I don't know. Your choice. But if you have a few limitations, it's like, okay, it has to be at night. We have an hour. We're gonna have only the street lights available. We're not bringing any other lights, and we're trying to get a raccoon to do this thing, eat out of a garbage thing, or it's like, all right, we're in a bowling alley, and we have one light because that's all we could afford, and we didn't get permission. Whew, okay, well, what if we hide the camera in a bag? That's all right. And all right, let's go with that. Or what if we put the camera, what if we do like a hidden GoPro or something? You know what I mean? So every situation has these limitations, and every job you're trying to do has limitations, budget, time. And it's because of the limitations that you have to get creative. And every job has its own unique combination of limitations. And therefore, every single job has a unique opportunity to be creative. And that's why I love doing it. So no, I've never felt like I've had a run out of creativity. If you watch our film, The Homeless, or if you watch one of the Ask Steves where I talk about it, we had like 10 minutes to set up a noir scene and talk about creativity. That was challenging and fun, and I'm really proud of that scene. You can watch The Homeless on our Rethink YouTube, by the way. Safir, it's amazing how many views. Oh yeah, thank you. It's amazing. Safir says it's amazing how many views, my DSLR guide has. I know, it's crazy, 500,000, it's nuts. Eunice DJ, hello, how are you, bro? I'm well, how are you? Evenflow, what do you do for a full-time job? I don't want to sound cheeky, but you know your stuff. It would hurt to know you don't earn from it. I run a production company called Rethink Films. The link to our website is in the description. That's what I do full-time, is running my production company. We have a bunch of clients. Our biggest client at the moment is Tweezerman. This past February, we have flown to India to film how Tweezerman makes their tweezers. And it was awesome. They flew us out to India with a bunch of Tweezerman staff, and we were there in their factory. We also were at their shipping facility and quality control center in Long Island, and we filmed all that. If you go to tweezerman.com/aboutus or something like that, you can check out the video we shot for them, Rethink Films production. So, yes, I earn a living from doing Rethink Films. I have this apartment. We just got this laptop. We're doing well. We're doing well. And I just got a text from somebody saying that they're recommending us for a 7-week gig. Just gave them our rates. We'll see if it goes through. 7 weeks. That could be nice. Goliath. What made you start taking photos and videos in the first place? That's a damn good question. You know what's funny? I was looking at just the other day, maybe like a year ago, I was looking at old home movies, and on my 3rd birthday, I got a toy, which was a Fisher-Price 8mm camera. Not too dissimilar from this one, except it had a grip on the bottom. It was a Super 8 camera, but it was Fisher-Price, and would go, it would made that noise. That's when I was 3. I got a camera as a toy, Fisher-Price. And I didn't remember it. I didn't remember it my whole life. I didn't remember that until I saw that home video. I was like, holy shit. When I was 3, I had a camera. That's crazy. And my dad was always a nerd with cameras. He took 8mm film in the 70s when he went to Italy. He has all 8mm footage. He had cameras like lying around the house. And when I was like 8 or 9, he got a VHS-C camcorder for home movies. And my brother and I would take that camcorder and just make stuff, funny stuff. We did a fake news show with my cousin one time. We made a horrible film called The Banana Strangler, where my cousin killed my brother. And so I've been making home movies as for fun since I was 8. And so was Cody, you know? And it was so much fun. We spent all day making these things. We used to make these horrible things where my brother was a cop with a cowboy hat, because we found a cowboy hat in the closet, and he was a character named Tex. And our friends would all act in it, and I was always the cameraman. I always wanted to be the cameraman. That's just what I wanted to do. Occasionally I would get in front of the camera and act a little bit, but like I was always getting the shots and doing the zooms and all. I was always doing that. That's just what I wanted to do when we were having fun. And it wasn't until I was in high school where it was like, I should take photography. I should like learn about this, and I should take film. And it wasn't until high school in my senior year where I made my first film. It's on my YouTube page. It's called Bittersweet. Just go on my YouTube channel and look at Bittersweet. And that was my first film. And we had to storyboard it, and I shot it on 8mm film. And I shot the film, and it was grueling. I was so tired at the end of the day. I came home after a day of shooting with a film. And I got home, and my mom's like, so, how was it? And she knew I had been playing with cameras, since I was 8. She's like, so, how was it? And I said, I'm exhausted. I'm more tired than I've ever been. And I think this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I said that. I said that when I was 16, 17. I'm super exhausted, but I think this is what I want to do. And she was like, really? And so we started looking at film schools. NYU, Brooklyn College, SVA. And I got into SVA, and I started going to SVA after high school. And so that's how it started. I think I'm going to end the stream soon. It's almost 10 o'clock. Bottom of the 5th, 5-1 Chicago. Go Chicago. 108 years. I'm sorry, I got to go with the 108 years. So Goliath, that was that thing. Started taking photos in the first place. Jamal, some advice for taking pictures in the fall when most of the time is cloudy. Settings in the camera and so on. Cloudy is really good. Cloudy means even lighting for the most part. So settings, look at your light meter. Follow my light meter tutorial. Just for the most part, cloudy is good because most lighting is even. So once you get one setting, it should be pretty much the same throughout the day so long as it's still cloudy. It's only once the cloud goes away and now everything's bright as hell that you have to change your settings. But if it's cloudy all day, you're probably fine. Safir, thank you for answering all the questions. I really need to sleep now. Lol, it's super late in Germany. All right, Auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss. And thank you. You are awesome as well. Germany is great. I took German in high school. Ty Dawson, when approaching a shot, what settings do you adjust first? Like what steps do you take? It depends on the situation. If I'm doing photography, it's different. If I'm doing video, it's pretty easy because when I'm doing video, for the most part, the camera, like for instance, this camera, the C100, the native ISO on this is 850. So I always try to keep it at 850. What's native ISO? It's a thing you should probably keep the camera at for some reason. So I always keep this at 850. The shutter speed should always be 180 degrees for the most part, which is 1/48 of a second. So if I'm shooting with this, it's mostly the f-stop. If I want a more shallow focus, if I'm outside and if I want more shallow focus, then I have to put the ND filters on. The ND filters are right here. They're basically like sunglasses. An ND filter, a neutral density filter, is like putting sunglasses on. That's all it is. And there's different kinds. There's a little bit of sunglasses, a lot of sunglasses, a lot of sunglasses. And so when you put the sunglasses on, then you can open up your aperture more. Each one of these is 2 stops, so it's 2 stops. So if I look and it's like f8, I don't want to be at f8. I want to be at f4. Okay, 2 stops. Okay, that's f5.6, that's f4. Cool. If I look at it, it's like, oh man, this is like f8. I want to be at f2. Okay, so f8. Okay, boom. That's f5.6, f4. Okay, all right. That's f2.8. That's 2. Boom, got it. 4 stops. But then you do another one. That's 6 stops. So so basically, with that camera, it's, do I want to be at a shallow depth of field, or do I not care about that? And I need deep is okay. Depends. So it's like, okay, what do I want? Do I want to do shallow focus? Yeah. Then I put the NDs on and I open up. But pretty much the shutter speed and the ISO are the same. It's only when I max those out that I change it. So let's say it's like extremely bright, and you know, I'm on ND3. I'm on 6 stops, and it's still too bright. Then maybe I might put the ISO down to, like, I think it only goes down to 320. And even then, like, oh my God, I'm still too bright. At 320, at f4, because that's the maximum I can get on on my lens. I'm at f4 at 320 ISO on 6 stops of ND, and it's still too bright. Then I'll adjust the shutter, because you have to at a certain point. If it's photography, a whole different ball game. From outside, it's really like when I ask myself, is like, how much focus do I want? That's kind of like my biggest question. Like, how much focus do I want? Or it depends also if the person's moving. And so, okay, I'm in a situation, it's a landscape, nobody's moving. Okay, then how much do I want in focus? Well, I want everything in focus because it's a landscape, okay. Or like there's a tree here. Okay, I want the tree in focus and I want the background out of focus. Okay, open up the aperture. If you open up the aperture, that means you got to bring the ISO down. It means you got to up the shutter speed. Okay, but okay, if you don't want to do that in a landscape, nothing moving, okay, then I want deep focus, high f-stop, low ISO. You know, it's just like, what do I want? If I'm shooting somebody running, I don't want to stop them. Okay, I know that, okay, if I want to stop them, then I need to be at a fast shutter speed. I need to be at like 640 shutter or 1,000 shutter. Okay, so I have to lock that off because I thought, okay, I want to stop that person. Then once you lock off the 1,000 shutter speed, it's like, look at the light meter, and you're like, okay, well then ISO, put it down, or up, put the ISO up. Okay, and f-stop's got to open up too because I'm so dark on the shutter. Or I want to blur the person. Okay, well this person's going to be running. I want to blur them. So now I know slow shutter. So second. Okay, well second means I should really be on a tripod. So let me get the tripod out. Set up the tripod. Okay, I'm on the tripod. Slow shutter, second. Okay, now there's a shitload of light. Okay, ISO way down, aperture up. It's like, okay, well, hold on. What if I want to blur them and I want shallow focus? Whew. So I need to open up the aperture and slow the shutter speed. That's going to be a shitload of light. Then I put the ISO all the way down. Damn, still too bright. That's when you get the ND filters. That's when you need the ND filters. And you can buy ND filters that go on your lenses. With this one, it's great because they're built in. But if you know before you go out to a location that you're going to want to do shallow focus and blur somebody, then you're going to have to go buy some ND filters, you know. So there you go. Ty Dawson, there's your answer. Even Flow, sorry if my last question sounded daft. It's been great watching Heading Off. It's not daft, man. You're killing it. Thank you, Even Flow. Good night. Goliath, thanks for answering the question. It's like 2 a.m. where I am, so I got to go to bed. No problem, Goliath. Thank you for asking such great questions. Mesh, amazing story of you starting at 3 years old. Very inspiring. Thanks. It was pretty weird seeing the video of me getting the toy camera. I was like, it was kind of spooky. I was like, wow, that's when it started. That's when it started. I had no idea. I had no idea. It's just amazing. Like, be careful what you buy your 3-year-old. Anyway, Jamal, it's 3 a.m. here too. Even Flow, all the best from Scotland, bud. Sweet. Take care, man. Sleep well. Much love from Toronto. Thank you. Oh, Bulgaria. Cool. 4 a.m. Damn. Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. Here between. Steve D. What is a fair wage for a second shooter? A 10-hour day? 10-hour day. Fair wage for a second shooter. For camera? For photo? Steve, for a 10-hour day, second shooter for a wedding? For a photo? I need more details. I don't know, honestly. It's whatever you think the client can afford. It's like poker. Ever play poker? It's like being in this business, it's like you got to pretend like you have the nuts. You have to pretend like you have 4 aces. You have 4 aces. You're going to win. So you look at your opponent, you look at your client, and it's like, well, I'm going to win. So it's like, how much can I bet that they're going to call? Not that they're going to fold. You want them to call. So it's like, all right, he's been betting kind of light. He's been a little bit, whatever. He's probably not going to call more than $2. So I go, all right, $1.50. Then they raise. Oh my God, that'd be great. But $1.50. All right, call. 4 aces. Got it. But then it's like, this guy's been really strong. This is a huge corporation. This is a big corporation. You have 4 aces. It's like, man, you know what? They might call 1,000. I bet 1,000. Sometimes it'll be like, that's beyond our budget. All right. What if we do this? We want to work with you. What if we lower the day rate for now? We do this because we want to work together. Okay. That's whenever I'm with a client, it's like, what's your budget? Because they always, what are your rates? And I go, well, what's your budget? You know what I mean? Like, whatever, obviously, the more money you give, the better the thing's going to be. The more time we can spend on it, the more people we can have work on it. Obviously, look at my reel. Here's the quality you can get. So what's your budget? You know what I mean? But it's tough. It's a tough dance. It's a tough dance. That whole area is a tough dance. You want to make sure that you don't feel like you're doing work and you're being underpaid for it. Like, spending so much time on something and you're getting not enough to pay for your bills. And it's like, you already negotiated. For the next one, you got to raise the prices up a little bit. Wedding, video. Second shooter for a 10-hour day. I don't know, 500, maybe 550. Probably won't get more than 650. Lowest 350. So I guess between 350 and 650 is probably a decent wage. I mean, it also depends. If you've been doing them for a long time and you have clients who want you, it's like, we want to work with you because you're the best. All right, then maybe you can get more. Maybe you can get 1,000 for a second shooter and 1,500 for a main shooter. It really depends. It depends on the client. It depends on a lot of stuff. But, 350 to 650 would be nice for a second shooter, I think. Maybe those prices are low too. That's the other thing. Like, sometimes I don't know. I almost want to pretend to be getting married and talk to companies, call up I should do that. I should pretend to get married, call up a whole bunch of different companies and ask them their rates so that I can figure out what a competitive rate is, because it's tough. It's tough. It would be nice to have a video on how to set up a contract. Very true. That's a very good idea for a video, how to set up a contract. And things to make sure you have in the contract, like, do you own the raw footage? Do we keep the raw footage? That happens. I don't give my raw footage. Raw footage is extra money, for video, because, they could always find Uncle Bob who can go edit it. So raw footage is always extra. There's a somewhere between 5 and 10% of the full budget is how much raw footage usually is, but it's also like, it's always a case-by-case basis. Andy Hayes, rates probably depend on location of the gig. That's true. There's also travel involved. You have to cross a lot of bridges, pay a lot of tolls, pay gas money, tack that onto it. Sometimes if you're working in the city, like sometimes I work in New York City, there are parking garages. Parking garages can be like almost 70 a day, 70 for the day, 70. That's ridiculous. Steve T, yeah, 500's about high-end average for me in Chicago. Yeah, for a second shooter, yeah. 500, I said 500. 450 is probably the normal. 500 would be really nice. 650 is like, these people have money. 350 is budget. 350 is like, 350 budget, 450 normal, 550 higher end, you've got clout, you've got a reputation. 650, you got a reputation and your clients have money. Here between, C100 or A7, would you recommend either one over the other? To me, they're in two different classes. To me, it's like C100 or the Sony equivalent of a C100 is, I mean, think about it. Here's the C100. And the Sony A7 is smaller than this. So just in terms of like features, the A7 doesn't do peaking, the A7 doesn't do zebras. It's not a camcorder. What you're asking is camcorder versus DSLR. You can't compare the two. You need to find a camcorder for Sony, like the EX1 or, you know, PMW somethings, or the NX series, you know. Those are camcorders with peaking and zebras and XLRs and stuff like that. So an A7 doesn't have XLRs or peaking or all that stuff. It's two different things. So to me, I recommend the C100 because it's a better camera for live event, stuff like that. A7 would be good for short film, you know, stuff like that. Mesh, smart man, extra footage, extra pay. I guess it is smart, but to me, it's common sense. Extra footage, extra pay, extra work, extra pay, extra time a day. You know, our thing is a 10-hour day. You know, you're going to go to 12 hours. That's extra. That's time and a half. You break up. Let's say you're getting 1,000 for the day for 10 hours. Well, now you're going for every hour past 10, it's time and a half. So that's 1,000 a day for 10 hours is 100. Time and a half is 150. So if 1,000 for the day, for 10 hours, 1,000 for a day. If it's 11 hours, it's now 1150. If now it's 12 hours, now it's 1,300. So yeah. Raw footage extra pay. Andy, I've heard a single shooter with 2 cameras set up for a wedding goes about $900 to $1,200 in OKC, Oklahoma City. That's cool. That's cool. In New York City, a single shooter, 2 camera setup, probably, yeah, more than that, 2,000. To me, I wouldn't go less. To me, I would do 2,500 for that. Single shooter. Oh, single shooter with 2 cameras. Oh, single shooter, 2 cameras. Like one on a tripod and one handheld. Yeah, 1,500, I guess. But that makes sense. But see, the thing is, like, I wouldn't want to do single camera. I wouldn't want to do single shooter with 2 camera. I've done it before, and it's too much pressure. It's too much work because you have to be the sound guy. You have to be everybody. You have to be your own assistant. It's like, honestly, I would rather charge a little bit more just to get an assistant. It's like someone says to me, "Oh, you just be a single shooter and do 2 cameras." Like, that's not cheaper. That's more money. If you want me to do it by myself, I'm going to charge you more money. You know. And it's like, one client of mine, well, not a client, but a partner that we've worked with, it's like, she gets the invoice and it has, you know, parking garage in it. And it's like, let's say, this is not the numbers, but let's say my rate was 1,000. So here's my rate is 1,000. I send her the invoice and it's like, oh, it's 1,000 plus $50 for the parking garage. And it's like, oh, I didn't know you'd be driving into the city and parking in a garage. I thought you were going to be taking the train. And I was like, I'm sorry, but if I had to take the train with all my gear, I would charge you $1,200, not 1,000. So you're saving $150. You know, it's like, because if you want me to take the train, like no cars, and I have to take the train with all my gear, with tripod, bag, camera, you know, so much shit, and take it on the train, you know, up the stairs. Oh, it's so much more work, and plus it adds time to the commute. Of course I'm going to charge you more money because that's more time. And she's like, oh, makes sense. Yeah, damn right it makes sense. You know? So, yeah. Too much running around. So, okay. For the 9 people here, I'll give you a minute or two. Think of one last question. And I'm going to answer the last round of questions. And then watch the rest of the World Series. It's now 6-3 Chicago. Top of the 6th. And then maybe after that, I might play some Skyrim, but I'll probably be too tired. It's been 2.5 hours right now so far. Yeah. So if I don't get any questions in a couple of minutes, I'll just end it right there. But I can go back and see if I missed anything. Good advice with the poker analogy. The business end is my weakest. Go Cubbies. Yeah, right. Isn't it crazy that in Back to the Future, 1985, or 87, I guess, Back to the Future 2, when they go forward to 2015, the Cubs won the World Series. They were 1 year off. I think that's crazy that they were 1 year off. But yeah, the business end can be tough, but it's like you obviously have to have the skills to back it up. You have to be good at what you do. So definitely, you know, you're going to do, the first stuff you do is going to be for cheaper. And as you get better and better, you just incrementally raise your prices. You know, do the work that you can for the money you can get. Do the best you can when you do that gig. And be really cool with the person that you work with. Say yes. Don't say, oh, this thing and all, but that, blah, blah. Just say yes and do your best and try to please. You know, that is something we had to tell ourselves too as a business. Like, we find ourselves saying like, the problem there is this thing, but it's like nobody wants to hear that. Just say yes, we'll do it. We'll give it our best shot. Try to say yes more. And, you know, as your business grows and as you grow and as you get better and better, and as you start working with more and more people, you know, it's a, you know, that can be tough. It's like, oh, but you did this last year and it was this price. I know, but you know, as time goes on, you know, every company that you've ever worked with, everything, the prices always go up every year. Prices go up a little bit every year. It's just business, you know, and it's like, you can charge a little bit more, and then they say like, we don't know if we can afford that, and be like, you know what, okay, now we'll just go back to the old price, but just so you know that like this is the new prices going forward, okay, and either they don't come back to you, or they do, you know, I don't know, but you just keep working. Mesh, love your work, thank you, huge thanks. Let's go Blue Jays. Let's go Toronto. Andy, do you find you spend more time doing the actual video aspect of the job, or do you find yourself doing more of the business paperwork aspect of the job? I find that, yeah, most of the time is not the actual production. Most of the time running a production company is marketing, working on self-promotion, working on your reel, working on your Facebook, working on your social media, working on calling up people you know who are in the business. Hey, I'd like to meet up for a beer, meet up for a drink or something and just talk. What are you working on? I'm working on this. What are you working on? Oh, that's cool. You want to keep... I don't consider people who have production companies competition. I consider them collaborators because you never know. I might get a huge gig at some point and need to reach out to them. So I want to have good working relationships. I want to know what they're working on. I want to know what gear they have. So I know, oh, you know what? He's got this and this, and he knows that. And I have this gig going on, let me call him up. And then vice versa. If he's got something going on, oh, Steve's got a C100, let me call him up. It happens, man. So work on those business relationships, you know, and also take time to write something creative, write something that you want to do. Everybody, I have passion projects that I want to work on. So I have to make time, sit down in between all the crap and write a script. You know, write an idea for a video, you know, write something that could be a viral video or something, just to have fun. It's tough because when you're running a business, there's less and less time for that kind of stuff, but it's important to still be creative and do that sort of a thing. But yeah, trying to market, trying to get work, and then once you have a gig, meeting and talking about it and figuring out what the video is going to be, that's most of the time. Then when you're actually there shooting the video, you know, that's fun and it's nice, but at the same time, there's pressure. And it's like, oh man, I hope I do a good job. I hope this looks good. You know what I mean? I hope I get enough, you know? Yeah. Amazing answer. Great question. Yeah. It is a great question. And I think like Cody, especially, like, you know, he wants to make sure that he's doing stuff he wants to do, you know, and I think that's very important. The problem is like when you do this for a living, it's work. So now the thing that you love, now the thing that's your passion is now work. And either that can send you into a panic attack or you get used to it and you can live there. You can live in that realm of like, you know, it's work and you can complain. Like I've complained to friends, you know, I have a friend who works for Verizon and I complain about stuff that's going on with me. And he's like, yeah, but dude, you're doing what you want to do. And I'm like, fuck, that's right. You know, I am. And it makes me feel awful in a way, but, you know, you do what you got to do. Take it easy, Steve. Thanks for doing this. You too. Take it easy, Steve, you. Okay. I think that's about it. It's been 2.5 hours. I think that's a good thing to end on. You know, be creative, do you, be the best you can be. And no problem, Andy. I will try to do this again. Maybe I'll try to do a live thing like once a month. That'll be cool. So yeah, I'm hoping that this posts onto my YouTube and stays there. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. It was kind of murky at the beginning. There was only like 1 or 2 people, but as we've gone on, we're up to 8. And hey, 8 is better than 2. So I just want to say thank you guys for participating. Thank you all for being here with me. Thank you for letting me talk. And thank you for asking awesome questions. And if you have any other questions, you can comment them on here after it's done, or email. Check in the description for the website to my production company, Rethink Films. Definitely follow us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Rethink Films on Facebook. You can go there, check it out. We're on Instagram. We don't have a Snapchat, but we're definitely on Instagram. Rethink posts stuff. We try to post stuff like every day on Instagram. You know, our shoots and stuff. You can follow me on Twitter, DiCasaFilm on Twitter. Rethink doesn't have a Twitter yet, but we're getting there. So those are the shameless plugs. You can go to Rethink's YouTube. There's stuff in there. Rethink has a Vimeo. All of our work is on our website too. We're working on our drone reel. So we're going to have a drone reel soon. That's going to be cool. Once we get the drone reel, a trailer that's going to be on our Instagram. The trailer that's going to be on our Facebook page. So if you're interested in what I'm doing, Rethink Films on Facebook, Instagram. Way to go. Drones! Yes. Okay, guys. I know I don't know you all, and this is a big word, but I love you guys. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. And let's do this again in the future. Signing off. Happy filmmaking. Peace.